Hello, Flock Squawk Nation. It is September 27th, 2021. We are a day removed from the Ravens' huge win in Detroit over the Lions. 19-16 is the final score. Hey, I want to start this podcast out, and I'm demanding an apology from both of you.
Don't you start it.
During the day, at the end, when I saw the kick, first off, I was like speechless. I saw the kick. I saw it bounce off the crossbar, and my first thought was like, these always bounce out, right? Like we had the double doink, right, with in Chicago where it hits off the crossbar, and I've never seen a ball bounce off the crossbar, and then because of the camera angle that you're looking at, you're like, oh man, is that in? Or it's kind of hard to tell. It's not easy. And then you look at, like, you see the replay over and over again, and you see it hit the back of the net.
Yep.
I dumbfounded. It's an NFL record, right? No one has ever kicked a 66-yarder. They've attempted longer. In fact, this week, I believe the kicker for who was playing Jacksonville, the Cardinals, Matt Prater.
Yep.
He tried to kick a 68-yarder and it got returned to the house.
The guy that held the previous record.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. So, Chad, where were you when you saw the kick? Were you as shocked as I was? I swear, I felt like I stared at my television for like 20 seconds in disbelief.
Oh, man. That last 50 seconds was crazy. Like, it was like once Lamar got sacked twice and it was 4th and 19. I was like, man, how did we just lose to the damn Detroit Lions? And then I don't know if you were watching the broadcast, they showed this Detroit fan and he was wearing a fucking Lakers shirt and he had a Phillies hat on. And I was like, we're going to lose to these. Like, why is this kid wearing he was front row in Detroit wearing a Lakers shirt and a Phillies cap. And I was like, we're going to lose to this fan base right now. I'm pissed. I was so mad at that. And then it was 4th and 19. I was like, we lost. And then obviously Lamar had 1,000 seconds. The protection was great on that 4th and 19 play. He just dropped a dime right over the coverage, the soft zone coverage to get to Sammy Watkins. And then Sammy Watkins turns inward instead of going to the sideline to get out of bounds. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, are we trying to lose this game on purpose? And then they clocked it. And then they obviously missed the delay of game call. Big miss.
And everyone's talking about it now. Everyone's talking about the delay of game. And even the broadcasters in the booth are like, they're doing the countdown. And it's so obvious. They had extra 2 seconds on that.
Yeah, it was almost 2 seconds. And then it was just a throwaway. And then Tucker kicked from there. And I'm just like, all right. I mean, I was like, if anybody's going to do it, it's Justin Tucker right now.
Right.
And so I had some faith. I was like 66. He's done the last game was 61. I was like, he did it here before. Like, this is going to be crazy if this happens again. And sure enough, when he kicked it, I was like, I stood up. I was watching at Brad and his girlfriend's house. And I stood up immediately. I was like, it has the distance. Like, it's all about the
it looked right on track. I'm like, dude. Okay, so it's on track. Like, it's going to at least be short. Maybe it'll be short, but it's on track. Like, that thing looked great coming off the foot.
Yeah, coming off the foot, it was like immediate. I was like, oh, we actually have a chance to win this game with this kick. And then, like you were saying, when it bounced from the angle we see, it looks like it bounced straight up.
Right.
And we were like, did it cross? But later you'll see that it bounces. It actually hits like the inside of the post. So it should have been good either way, even if it bounced out, I imagine, because it like hit the back of the post and bounced right into the net. Like it was perfect, man. And me and Brad were just screaming, embracing each other, hugging, and the girls are just like, what the hell is going on? But
that's funny you say that, because I was talking to Aubrey. Aubrey watched the kick and it went in, and I freaked out, and she was like, what just happened? And I was like, you literally just saw something that's never ever occurred in the NFL before, ever. Like what you just watched was insane. The people on the broadcast booth are just like, I can't believe he just did that.
Yeah.
Brad, I want to get your thoughts on it too. What were you thinking? Same question for you. Like, what an incredible moment, man. I was blown away.
Fucking 66 yard field goal to win the game. I mean, and nobody else could have done that besides Tucker. I mean, Chad walked you through that whole last little drive that we had. But it's annoying listening to say 2 years ago you got New Orleans. New Orleans doesn't make it into the Super Bowl, and Jared Goff actually gets into the Super Bowl because of a controversial call with the pass interference on the sideline as a missed call by the refs. It shit happens every single day, and just people are just making it into such a big deal and just ignoring the fact that, I mean, Justin Tucker literally kicked a ball 6 more feet than anybody else has ever made outside of Denver at Mile High, where the air's thinner, the ball travels better. And granted, he wasn't a dome, and outside of the dome probably wouldn't be going in, but the man kicked a 66-yard field goal and is the best kicker ever. It was awesome. I wasn't expecting to. When I saw that it was 4th and 19, I was like, well, shit, we're going to throw. Not 4th and 19. We had like a chance in like a 66 area, the 65 area. I was like, we're just going to throw a bomb into the end zone. I mean, it's awesome. Justin Tucker, best ever. Still wouldn't pay him $20 million a year. That's on you, out your pocket.
So you're not going to apologize. You're not going to apologize, even when awesome. Even when it was shown to you. You're just like, nah, I'm not giving you one. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
That man's great though. But I will say something. So with that, I know Chad said when he was talking about that last drive, he said that the protection was awesome or whatever. So he was able to step up into that pocket. If you watch that play, it wasn't really the protection. The man sadly had to drop back. You don't drop back 12 yards to make a pass. This man dropped back 12 yards off the line of scrimmage just so that he had enough time to see the field and for somebody to get open, because our protection was terrible all game. Mm-hmm. They only rushed 4 people, and it was still collapsing on them. The man literally had to. The only person I've ever seen drop back that far is like a Drew Brees or like a Mike Vick, people that are like foot or a little bit shorter that have to see over the line, so they drop back a little bit further to see past them. You know what I'm saying? Right. This man literally dropped back 12 yards just so that he had enough time to find his receivers getting open downfield, or give them the time to get open, and then did drop a nice dime into Watkins, and the rest is history. So,
and then Watkins, I want to go back to what Chad was saying. Watkins turns inside instead of going outside, and I'm like, and the Lions defender, I think it was the safety, he beats the coverage. It's a beautiful throw. I mean, he fit it. You could make an argument maybe you go a little bit further to the sideline. Yeah. But even then, I don't think that is such a nitpicky thing for me to say. In fact, Lamar was great all night, and I want to kind of transition into this. So he goes 16 of 31, 287 yards, 1 touchdown, an interception. He had 7 carries for 58 yards. Right. This was one of the best Lamar Jackson games that I've ever seen. And the problem is you have a lot of Lamar Jackson haters out there who will look at that box score and they'll say, okay, he completed barely half of his passes. 287 yards is good, but that probably just means his receivers got loose. 1 touchdown, 1 pick. And you sit there and you go, like, all the Lamar Jackson haters, I feel like, look at that stat line and they go, see, he's not Matt Stafford. He's not Tom Brady. He's not throwing any balls downfield. But then you go, and I encourage anyone who thinks Lamar Jackson can't throw to watch this game in its entirety, and especially watch the second quarter. Marquis Brown dropped 3 passes in this game that I can make a legitimate argue would have been touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, your stat line, you've got over 350 yards receiving, arguably, depending on how these things shake out, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. Yeah. And he'd be all over ESPN today. Mm-hmm. But his receivers let him down. Chad, and we're going to go, Brad, you've got some feelings on this too, so we're going to talk about this. Marquis Brown, man, I don't really know what else to say. I've been down on this guy since last year. I've mentioned in previous pods I'm not a huge fan of just him not coming through consistently. Mm-hmm. Talk about the drops. Walk us through it. How significant were they in this game? Because I would argue you just dropped 3 touchdown passes potentially.
Yeah. Well, I agree 100%. It would have been 2 touchdown passes because 2 of the drops were on the same drive, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So but 2 touchdowns. True. There was also another. Well, it wasn't a drop. So I'll give Hollywood this. The one in the end zone, it looks like it got tipped by the defender.
It does. Yeah, it does look like it got tipped. And that probably threw it off a little bit.
100%. Yeah. And the same thing happened to Sammy Watkins earlier in the game. It was a deep pass along the sideline, and it was another perfect ball by Lamar, but the defender just made a great play and tipped it just barely and threw it off, and Sammy Watkins, it bounced off his right hand. Yeah. So, and the 3 passes we're talking about for Hollywood and that pass to Sammy Watkins, dimes, absolute dimes. Down the field, fucking dimes. The just 2 of those plays, great defensive play, tipped 2 of them. So I won't say that one in the end zone was a drop for Hollywood, but the other 2 were 100% drops. And this constant, I don't understand it. Obviously, it's a mental thing because obviously he can catch. I remember last year he had an issue, and then he went on Twitter, and it was a little thing in the media. So, and then he actually bounced back and had a great end of the year last year. So I don't think it's I think Brad has a little bit, he'll talk about it later, a little bit harsher feelings about it. I mean, games should have been easily won if it wasn't for those drops, in my opinion. I'm not going to crucify the guy. He's a young player. He's up until this point, he had great 2 games against Vegas and against Kansas City. This game, he just wasn't, just wasn't in it. Obviously, if it bleeds into the next couple games, then obviously we have an issue. But right now, I think it was just I'm not too worried about it. I feel like he'll step up and be better from it.
We'll take care of that for you, Chad. Because I have some things to say on it. Brad,
I want to get.
We'll get to it. Brad, what do you think, man? What are your thoughts as he's dropping the ball? Chad said you were going to be harsher, so you and I are probably on the same page with this.
Well, I was getting on man the whole time. I can only say so much since I'm sitting on the side of the TV, not on the field. But Lamar did awesome. Yeah, I think he did good yesterday. He was dropping dimes. There's one missed pass in the end zone that could have been for a touchdown. For I think it was who was it? Andrews. Literally, the man was wide open. He just kind of overshot him and threw it to his backside. He was going out to his sideline, but he threw it to the inside of the.
And that's actually not a bad throw either. The one of Andrews, if he's thinking he's going to come back inside, he is open inside.
Yeah, he was open.
Yeah, but
just a miscommunication there.
Yeah. But when it comes to Brown, I mean, he looked terrible. I mean, the dude's fast, but he can't come off man coverage. Lamar, I mean, he's had 2 touchdowns this year. Those are the touchdowns. It's not him. It's Lamar. Lamar making something happen. You know what I mean? So I don't like Brown, but it is what it is. I mean, we have him. He's our receiver. I mean, I'm hoping that Rashad can come back after he's eligible this week. Whether or not he comes back, I really hope he does because I'm tired of hearing Brown's name and even seeing him. I was hoping that they actually benched him after the second half. Because going into the second half, we should have been up 17-0, which completely changed the game. And the only reason that we're not, and I hate to put something on one single player ever, but the man literally drops great thrown balls. And that's one thing that we're always talking about with Lamar is him not using his arm the way we want him to because he's always looking to run. Man gets those dime balls all day, and he just dropped him. It was like he just wasn't seeing the ball all the way into his hands, and he was just turning to run before he even caught the ball. I mean, that's Hollywood for you. Call God. He's like I'm tired of honestly seeing him, but it is what it is. He's one of our receivers, and it is what it is. Those 2 drop passes should never freaking happen.
I think what makes my critique of him especially harsh is we pick him up in the first round, right? If you're taken in the first round and you're a wide receiver, you got to be a guy, right? Like you got to be a guy that if I go to you for a pass, you're able to go get it. I think the big criticism I have with Hollywood Brown, I can almost forgive the drops because I think if those two drops happen, let's say one of those drops happens in one game and it's week 5, and then the other drop happens in week 15, I'm not going to sit there and say Hollywood Brown has a hand problem. Excuse me, Marquis Brown. He doesn't want to be called Hollywood anymore.
Gotcha.
Well,
that's going to get some getting used to.
He's not Hollywood, man. He should never been called Hollywood. He's a jokester.
I think, but the thing with me about Brown is it's like the interception that Lamar Jackson throws. Okay, it's very similar. We've talked on pods before about the interception he threw against J.C. Jackson against New England last year. This was sort of the same play. If you're a number 1 wide receiver and you see that your quarterback is in trouble and he throws a ball up with someone in his face and the ball's in the air for 3 seconds, I don't necessarily care if you go and you make a play on the ball. If you turn, you got 3 seconds to respond. In the NFL, things happen in less than 1 second. If he just runs to the defender and tries to make a catch, maybe the pass is broken up and you don't get a pick. Or maybe the ball gets to it. It looks like it's going to be an interception, but you're there to break up the ball and make a play on the ball, and maybe that becomes an incompletion. If I draft a receiver in the first round, I'm looking for that because that is something that takes a wide receiver from just being a guy who can catch the ball to a guy who can back up his quarterback and get him out of some of these situations. Again, the box score, I mean, you could look at it, Chad. I'll agree with you in the sense that it was tipped in the end zone. Even 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, with 350 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at this would be all over ESPN and everyone would be talking about it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see Rashad Bateman back.
Yeah,
in this offense because Sammy Watkins, I think, is doing a lot of the things that Rashad Bateman is supposed to be doing in this offense, and Sammy Watkins is doing them very well. And you can't, Brad, to your point, right? Normally we knock Lamar or we knock Mark Andrews for making drops. Mark Andrews was all over the place last night. He was balling out, man. He had 109 receiving yards. He did great. And our run game got better, I think, in the second half of this game. I kind of want to move on to the big picture. So we are essentially a strip fumble away and a 66, I cannot believe I'm saying it, a 66-yard field goal away from potentially being 0-3 to start the season. We're 2-1, and I always will take a win. Chad, do you see a scenario where maybe people are overestimating the Ravens because they're having these incredible plays to end games and they're not looking at the full product of work? Or do you think this is something that can be sustained through a whole season?
I'll start that off by saying great teams find ways to win when they're not supposed to win. I mean, we lost the turnover battle yesterday. We only converted 1 third down on offense. And there was another stat that was like just horrible. And when you do those 3 stats, I forget what the third stat was, but teams never win when that happens. And we found a way for it to happen. I personally, I don't think it's sustainable, and we got a lot of stuff to work out. And it's a little worrisome. But I'm an optimistic person, so I look at it as this is a great team finding a way to win when they're not even close to being 80% healthy or like they still have a lot of shit to work out, and I think they can. And I'm just thankful that we are making these wins happen when we're, we have all these injuries. We have almost our whole defensive line missing because of COVID. We lost 2 players on defense in the game. The rookie Hayes and Deshaun Elliott left the game early. Like we are hurting big time. I mean, Ronnie Stanley didn't play again, not to mention losing all our running backs in a matter of weeks. So it's not sustainable. We need to get our shit together, but I think it will happen just because we're going to be getting healthy hopefully soon. And once we get Rashad back, I feel like, and I agree with what you were saying about Hollywood, about draft being he's not a number 1 receiver. We drafted him as a number 1 receiver. It didn't pan out that way. But him in that role as a second receiver behind Bateman, or even being in a similar role to Sammy Watkins as 2A, 2B or whatever, I think that's the perfect role for him. And I feel like he'll be fine in that position moving forward, especially when we get Bateman back and he becomes that true number 1 that we're hoping he can be. I'm happy we got these 2. Yeah. Cause we could easily be 0-3.
I'm shocked that, I'm shocked that we're 2-1, and even the game that we lost, we took the team into overtime. I think the Ravens this year, whether you think they're good or not, is up for debate, because you could look at them on paper and say they signed Latavius Murray a week ago, and he's supposed to be your number 2 back, but that's just the situation we found ourselves in.
Yeah.
Brad, I think that we were talking last week about the secondary and the defense, and Chad and I seem to be on the same page. Like, I've got some serious issues with the defense. I'm willing to admit, when I want you to talk about the COVID stuff, because that's something we were talking about it before we went on for the pod. For whatever reason, like the game announcers and the play-by-play, they didn't even mention people being out with COVID. I was just kind of looking at the line and being like, where the hell's Justin Houston? Like, why isn't Justin Madubuike out there rushing the passer? Besides that, and acknowledging that, when you look at the Lions game, do you still think that the secondary and the defense can hold up against, say, Denver next week and Teddy Bridgewater?
Yeah, I do. I don't see any issue. Like, we were down, like you said, 4 of our front 7. You know what I mean? And not including Wolf, that hasn't been into play yet this year.
Yeah.
So we were getting, the only reason. I mean, what are the stats on? Hold up, 1 second. Sorry. Goff was 22 of 30 for 217 yards. Never had a touchdown. You take away 9 of those passes, which went to Swift and Jamal Williams. He is 13 of 21 and has less than 130 yards for the whole game. That all they did was exploit the fact that we had a bunch of backups and practice squad people playing in the position of our front 7. And all they were doing was little dump passes to their running backs. They couldn't really beat us. And the only time that they could beat us is because they were able to do that on people that usually aren't even in and haven't been playing with our starting lineup because of COVID. And they would have dropped into Raymond or I believe it was Fells. And to me, it's not a big deal. To me, I think that our defense is going to be fine. We just didn't have our pass rush wasn't the same. I mean, we made Jared Goff look better than he was, and it was literally just because he was dropping the ball off to a bunch of running backs.
Hey, I'll tell you what, those running backs, DeAndre Swift is a stud for the Detroit Lions, especially in the second half. It looked like that's where Goff was primarily going with the football. I mean, it's just like, and part of that, DeAndre Swift is a stud. He put that move on Tyus Bowser on the sideline.
Yeah.
That's one of the best moves you're going to see all. I felt bad and Bowser comes back on the play. He comes back and he helps with the tackle.
Yeah. Is that the same
I felt
play?
bad for his ankles, man. I was like, oh my gosh, he just shook him out of his shoes. It was unbelievable.
Is that the same play that Queen missed the tackle too?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think what happened there was he thought Tyus was going to make the play.
Brad said the same thing. Yeah.
Exactly what I said.
Yeah.
And DeAndre Swift he takes that left step and then and I'm just like, and Patrick Queen misses the tackle because he's thinking
he's not wrapping up. He's thinking he just hit to get the ball
thinking
out.
He's got him on the sideline and he's just skirted out of it. Okay, so let's talk about COVID.
Yeah.
How many people were out for the Ravens this game with COVID? Actually, and do we know their status? Do we know if they're going to be back? Because we don't know who's vaccinated and who's not on this team. So I don't know what the protocols are really.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's 10 days after anything. It's just 10 days. And I mean, we got the notification on, I think Thursday that they were going to be out. So.
Okay. So they'll be back for next week then.
They should theoretically be back for the game, whether or not they obviously can't practice this week but I mean, like I said, I don't really know. I honestly don't follow anything when it comes to COVID.
Yeah, because I don't know who's vaccinated and who isn't. I don't know how long people are going to be out and how long they're staying in.
So so we were missing 4 people because of COVID, like Brad said. It was Justin Houston, Jalen Ferguson, 2 edge defenders, and then our 2 best tackles, Brandon Williams and Mbukwe.
And we were still getting to Jared Goff.
Yeah,
it felt like he was under pressure all day.
But they were able to run all over us.
Yeah,
they weren't running all over us, but they were definitely exploiting that our interior and our edge for sure. But the protocol is if it's 10 days, Brad, if you're not vaccinated and you test positive. We learned that from Lamar earlier in the year. So It's 10 days no matter what if you're not vaccinated and you test positive. From what I remember, I think I only heard that Ferguson was the one that tested positive. I don't know about the other 3. They could just be close contact. But if they're just close contact, I don't think you have to miss. I think the protocol is if you're vaccinated and you're a close contact, I don't think that's a thing anymore. So these players, if they didn't test positive, which we're not sure who did or not, if they're just a close contact, and they missed the game, that means they're not vaccinated.
You know who this is a great question for?
Who's that?
Our subscribers. If you're subscribed to Flock Squawk and you get a better answer on this, so we have because COVID protocol. Sorry, folks, not the expert on it. But if any subscribers know the rules and the details, leave them in the comments section below. We're gonna have those guys back, right? We're gonna have them back.
Yeah, we'll have them back because So Ferguson. So this article is saying Ferguson tested positive on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's not vaccinated, he still could miss next week because it's 10 days from that. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So he would, if he's not vaccinated, he would miss next week.
Okay.
And then Houston, Williams, and Mbukwe were identified as high risk close contact. It doesn't say it. It just says if fully vaccinated. If fully vaccinated, you need to test negative twice within a 24-hour period before you can come back.
Okay.
And you're not subjected to that 10-day quarantine if you're unvaccinated. For the close contact, unvaccinated players must stay away from the team for 5 days. So if that's the case for the other 3 and they are unvaccinated, then we will have them back because 5 days would be Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay. So the only person that we know for sure tested positive was Ferguson, and he's the only one at risk of missing the game next week if he's unvaccinated.
Okay.
So,
which we don't know.
We don't
know. I don't know if he's vaccinated or not, and if he is,
we'll find out if he comes back before 10 days.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Interesting. They've really put the pressure on unvaccinated players. I mean, that is just like you could miss potentially 2 weeks of football. If you land on the right spot and you reported on a certain day, you could be missing 2 weeks of football.
Thursday would be like the worst possible. Thursday and Friday, just like this app, because you would miss that game and then you would miss the next game if you're unvaccinated and you tested positive.
But if you're vaccinated, it sounds like you can just come right back in. You can come in the next week is what I'm saying. Like you have to stay out.
You have to test negative twice within a 24-hour period. So,
okay. Yeah. All right. So there's a good chance that we get a lot of those guys back. I mean, which is great. I would like to have them against Denver.
100%.
Brad, I want to pivot to you for a second. Denver's a weird team. Denver's a weird team and the Ravens are a weird team, but they're weird for different reasons. Denver is sitting at 3-0 atop the AFC West. And here are a list of the opponents that they have played since then. So Denver was week 1 at the Giants, week 2 at Jaguars, and then they just shut out the Jets at home. All 3 of those teams have one thing in common. They have no wins.
Exactly.
They're 0-9, and Denver has beat all of them. Right. Which team do you think is more likely to be in a position that they didn't expect themselves to be in the beginning of the season? The Ravens could very well be 0-3 and they're 2-1. And Denver is 3-0 against some of the bottom barrel teams in the NFL. No offense to those fan bases. Which do you think is more likely? That Denver is actually bad or the Ravens are bad?
Denver. I mean, I think that's obvious. They haven't even been tested yet. We're going to be their first test. I mean, I don't even want to get into us. Like, I mean, when it comes down to us, our first game we were running with running backs that we have never even used before. We had one running back who's been on the team. We literally just lost our best cornerback and we were still in the game. Last week, we beat the team that was in the Super Bowl and lost. Right. And then this week we're down 4 players and we still beat the team. Granted, it was a field goal, but we could have blown them out had we had some plays that we hit. We missed some missed opportunities. So I honestly don't think it would have been us. We're a good team. All of our players are going to be there. We just got Jimmy Smith back, and then we're going to get Rashad Bateman back hopefully this week. If not, we don't need to push it. Obviously, we don't want to push the man if he's still injured. But if we do get him back, we got 2 starters back. Hopefully we get Wolf back soon. And I think we're going to be fine. But for Denver, like you said, they have played 3 teams that have not even won a game yet, 2 of which are rookie quarterbacks. Zach Wilson, I think they played him, last week? Or was it this? Yeah, last week. And the man he's thrown 7 interceptions so far in 3 games and gotten sacked 15 times.
Yikes.
Damn.
Yeah.
15 times? Holy shit.
15 times. At the first game, he was 1 interception, 6 sacks. Then against New England, obviously, any rookie that goes in and plays against Belichick is getting tore up.
Right.
4 interceptions, 4 sacks. And then against Denver, 2 interceptions and 5 sacks. So, he's been getting tore up. So, I mean, it's like the defensive stats look good, but it's literally been happening to Zach all year. And then before that, so week 2, they played Trevor Lawrence, another rookie who is absolutely doing terrible. Unfortunately, he got thrown into a terrible team, really. So, I mean, he's still getting acclimated to the game. He's already has 7 picks and been sacked 5 times. They only got to him 1 time last week. But before
they pressured him to throw that pick. He threw a pick, Trevor Lawrence. They were doing like a flea flicker, and he threw it short, and it actually got intercepted. But you can make the argument he throws that ball like he holds that ball a second longer, he's getting sacked again. So
that was. I mean, he was getting blown up. And then before that, they played the Giants with Jones. I mean, Jones isn't that bad, but he also isn't like an elite quarterback or nothing. I mean, he can fill in the position, his big body and everything. But they're playing a not so good team, and in the NFC East is a terrible division. Who they got really? They got Dallas. Dallas. The only time Dallas is good is if they got Dak Prescott behind center. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So Barkley has just came off an ACL injury. They literally have not been tested yet this year.
Right.
So that's literally the only reason that they're 3-0. They're going to get tested by us, and I think that they're going to be 3-1, and we're going to be 3-1. So
it's a big statement game for both teams, right? Because a lot of people could say the same thing about the Ravens. I mentioned earlier, you're a couple plays away from being 0-3. I do think the difference is, I guess if we played this game on the Ravens' perspective, right? We lose to the Raiders. They end up, maybe they're legit. I don't know. They're 3-0 so far. Like I said, we barely lose a fumble to the Chiefs, but the Chiefs might not be the Chiefs that we've seen the past couple of years. They've got serious problems on defense. The one win, the Lions, I'll give a lot of credit to the Lions in the sense that I feel like to start the season, they've been real, chippy. They got beat by the Packers, but that's Aaron Rodgers. The 49ers, they were in that game. They were in this game. Maybe I think Detroit's defensive front is a little bit better than people give them credit for. But I look at Denver and I'm like, Von Miller's got 3 sacks already. And I don't know, with all the line shuffling that's been going on, I don't know. I'm sure we can block him for long stretches of time, but I feel like Lamar's just going to have to make quick decisions with the football with that pass rush. It's a statement game for both teams. On one hand, if Denver loses, maybe they're not as invincible as they seem to be right now. And if the Ravens win, you have to consider them the deepest team in the NFL, especially if they win big, I think. I think if it goes down to, the final 3 points of a game, I don't really know if that says a whole lot about the Ravens, whether they win or lose, but they're hanging around in these games. It's one of the best things about being a Ravens fan is like with Lamar being the playmaker he is and with Justin Tucker's boot, you can make something that seems impossible possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a lot of other teams have the discipline, the coaching, and the position players to do that sort of thing. And I think that's going to be important in this game. Is there anything else Mark Andrews had a great game, obviously. He had over 100 receiving yards. For once, he didn't seem like he was dropping the ball, so he's probably going to be a factor against Denver next week, big time. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we go on to predictions for next week?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off what you're saying about Denver's defense.
Mm-hmm.
This will be probably the best defense we play. I think Denver's defense is probably better than Oakland's or Vegas's. So, and Denver, Detroit's defense, they really held us. They really stopped the run. Granted,
their front seven might be better than we think.
Yeah, they held Lamar to under 60, and then I think Williams and Murray they each had under 30. We broke the 100-yard rushing for the day, which is we're one game away from tying Pittsburgh for the all-time streak. Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Definitely.
I think it's Pittsburgh that is in the lead with like 37, and we're at 36.
And it's got to be I think it's an old school team, right? When all they did back then in the NFL was run the football.
Oh, yeah, exactly, 100%. But I'm just saying, this will be the best defense we play, I believe. And their offense is very efficient. I think you were saying that Teddy Bridgewater's completion percentage is 71%.
Actually, no, it's crazy. It's higher than that.
Oh, what?
It's higher than that. It's 77.1%.
Wow. And he hasn't fumbled or thrown a pick yet?
He hasn't thrown a pick. I don't think he's fumbled. Right now he's got 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Yeah. Granted they've played 3 terrible teams.
Absolutely terrible defenses.
Yeah.
Right. I know. Right.
Yeah. But he was pretty efficient before his injury, if I remember. He's a decent quarterback. Unfortunately, that knee injury really, took him out of the league for 3 or 4 years, and he's just now the last couple of years getting his feet together. But he's not a bad quarterback. He's we've been beat by worse quarterbacks. I can say that before.
True.
So,
and there's a Louisville connection too.
Oh, yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater's from Louisville and Lamar Jackson's from
I didn't
Louisville.
think
So
that's
that'll be
cool.
interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game just because I think their defense is pretty good. Surtain, their first-round cornerback, he's been balling out. And I just think our offensive line. I don't know if Ronnie Stanley will be back next week, so I feel like our offensive line is still going to be a suspect right now. As long as we can do what Lamar was doing in the passing game this past week, because they shut down the rush, because I feel like Denver is going to do that too, to an extent. They're going to focus on shutting down the rush game like Detroit did, and they're going to make us pass, which Lamar was doing excellent at. We just dropped 5,000 balls.
Right.
So I'm optimistic we're going to win, but Denver's going to be our best test, I bet, defensive wise. And I feel, depending, and I'm assuming that most of our COVID issues are going to be fixed by next week, so our defensive line should be good. And Brad makes a good point about us still not having Wolf yet. Wolf was huge in that playoff game against Tennessee, limiting him, Brandon Williams, and Campbell, limiting, and even Judon, even though he's not with us no more, them limiting Derrick Henry to what we did in the playoff game last year. So I
have a Derek Wolfe story actually, but I'll tell it. I want to get, so here's what I'll say. The over under for this game is at 44. So you say it's going to be a low scoring game. What do you think the score is going to be?
I believe it will be low scoring. Let's see. I'm going to say the under on that. And I'm going to say 14. I'm going to say 14-22 Ravens.
14-22. Gotcha. Okay, Brad, what do you think?
Specifically on the score?
Well, no, just in general, how you feel about the game. We'll get the score from you later, but what do you think about how this game shakes out?
I think it's going to be back and forth for a little bit, but then I think we're going to pull ahead easily as long as we can get back to our running game. I don't necessarily think that, like in this past game, that we got our running game stopped. We just got away from our running game that we were doing in the first 2 games. We were doing way too much with switching in and out of running backs. There's multiple times where I looked at Chad and I'm like, where is Tyson Williams at?
Yeah.
Where this guy was our first hit every single time in the first 2 games. This man only ran 5 times yesterday. Right. the first game you're getting 9 touches for 65, then again against KC, 13 for 77, and passed it to him 4 times the first game, twice the second game. Yesterday he only gets 5 touches, no targets. The only target he got is Lamar Jackson wheeling out and just throws it in his direction out of bounds just to get rid of the ball. Totally got away from who our offense was. Granted, we didn't really need it. Like I said, we know there's a lot of missed opportunities with drop passes. We could have been up by a lot more, but I don't think that they stopped our run game the way the stats make it seem. So I feel like as long as we get back to our run game, we get Ricard in there, stack him up, and have him blocking for us, because our O-line isn't the best right now. Get a tight end in there to block for us, and we get back to running the ball and feeding Tyson, rather than just for whatever reason we're using all 3 running backs. Use Tyson and Murray. I don't understand. I don't think we need to bring in Freeman. I don't know why we're bringing in Freeman.
Yeah.
Get back to our game plan like we were the first 2 games, and I think we'll be fine.
So I'll say one thing about the run game. I do agree. I would have liked to see more Tyson Williams. I also don't think, maybe the Ravens go into this game and they think we need a game for Lamar to show that he can step up and pass. Detroit's secondary, they don't have Jeff Okudah, their corner. So their secondary is a little banged up. And I think this was a game on the schedule where they probably looked at it and they said, okay, if Lamar is going to sling it, let's get Lamar to sling it. It's unfortunate that these drop passes happen because, again, you're looking at an individual performance where you left at least 2 touchdowns on the table. I mean, I don't know. This was a game where I think they got away from the run because they want to emphasize the pass more. And with this defense, I think they could take it apart. And Lamar proved that was correct. I mean, he was huge in this game. What do you have for the score for the Broncos? I'll remind you, the over-under is set at 44.
I'm going to say Ravens. We're going to guarantee get 3 touchdowns and then 3 field goals. So I say 29. That makes sense? Nope, 30.
That'd be 30,
so
right?
30,
30, yeah.
30. I say 30-17.
Okay, so you got the over.
Ravens.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm worried about this game. I'm going to give my picks. I will say this. I'm looking at the injury report for the Broncos. I know that Ravens fans don't want to hear it about other teams' injuries, and I kind of get it, right? Like, we are completely decimated, and we have we have the most injuries in the league. But there are some pretty – I was watching the Broncos-Jets game. KJ Hamler might be out. It looks like that injury was serious enough where he's probably not going to play next week. They don't have Jerry Jeudy. He's out. He's going to be out for this game. So it's not like the Denver Broncos haven't been snake bitten. Mm-hmm. I think if the Ravens just have a few more starters, maybe ESPN's not talking about all the injuries. Maybe it's Denver they're talking about. And they're talking about how amazing it is that they're 3-0 as opposed to the Ravens being 2-1. I think it's going to be a close game. It's in Denver. And I believe it is a late game as well, 1:25 Mountain Time. So that's going to be 4:25 Eastern Time. Tough place to play, Mile High. But if the Broncos really are playing weaker opponents, I think the game goes under. Mm-hmm. I've got 23-20. I think it's a close game, and I think it comes down to a field goal again. That would just be under. That'd be like 43 points. It's close to the spread as well. The spread right now that Vegas has, they have it at -1, and I'm sure that's going to change. We're recording this on a Tuesday, so we'll see how COVID shakes out, and then we'll see about the injuries for both teams, really. I mean, we know that we've lost guys for the year, but I'll be interested to see, a guy like Deshaun Elliott. This is the second game in a row where he's gone out with an injury. First one seems to be concussion, and I don't really know what happened in the play where he got injured, quote unquote. Yeah. Like, I didn't really see anything that tied me to say, oh, that's an ACL tear or whatever. So we'll see if he's back next week.
Yeah. He walked off.
I got 23-20 Ravens.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with so we're in the same boat, lower scoring game, and the Ravens. Well, you have closer game. I have the Ravens winning by 8. But Brad thinks it's going to be a little bit high scoring. Cool. I'm excited to see how it turns out.
And you know what?
High scoring on our end.
On our end, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I've always liked. I'm gonna focus on this, and they'll probably focus on it in the broadcast. Teddy Bridgewater versus Lamar Jackson. If you're a Louisville fan, and you have some sort of beef at a bar about which quarterback was better in their career, it's unfortunate with Teddy Bridgewater because that injury that he sustained, with the Vikings, changed the entire trajectory of that guy's career.
100%, yeah.
And here's another thing too, it's amazing how if you put a quarterback in a certain situation, there's a very good chance that a very good quarterback does not live up to the expectations that are set upon them. The biggest example of this is Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
But I could also make an argument for Matthew Stafford. I mean, I watched the kick go in, and they have the shot where you see the crowd react. Mm-hmm. And like half of them are stunned at what they just saw because everyone was kind of stunned at what they just saw. Even the Lions fans are just like, what the hell just happened, right? And then there are some fans there who were just like, yeah, typical. They have a franchise where it's like, yeah, that's typical. You know, Matt Stafford gets traded away. He's 3-0 with the Rams now.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold gets traded from the Jets. He's 3-0 with the Panthers, which I said they were going to be good before the start of the season with Sam Darnold. And I tie this back to Lamar. Lamar's career, in a lot of ways, it was good that he was picked at the end of the first round.
100%.
Because you got a team. Could you imagine Lamar Jackson with the Jets? That guy would have been, you know, because Sam Darnold goes to the Jets, Baker goes to the Browns. Maybe the Browns are a good situation for him. It just goes to show how important coaching is and how if you have a winning philosophy and a winning mentality, sometimes that can carry you through the day.
Oh, 100%.
And the Ravens are in that territory this year.
Yeah,
they are winning close games, and they're really showing a lot of grit and determination for a team decimated by injuries.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to talk about for the game? We talked. I think that's pretty much it. We covered everything. Tyson Williams deserves more touches, Brad. I agree. He had that power run.
Like
the
11
offensive
yards.
line just like pushed him to get the first. I love runs like that. I think they should use him a little bit more. Okay, so go ahead, Chad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, I was saying, Dylan, I don't think we talked about our rookie linebacker Hayes injury. So we lost Elliott in the game. So we're not sure he walked off. So that's good. And then we lost Dylan. I think it's Dylan Hayes I think it's Dylan Hayes. Dalen Hayes. Yeah, I think it's Dalen Hayes.
Yeah.
But we lost. It looked like he was grabbing at his shin. So and he limped. I mean he was walking around, but he was limping. So I hope that's not another season-ending thing. So I just wanted to mention those two. And another thing that we haven't talked about is Nick Boyle, along with Rashad Bateman. Nick Boyle has a chance of playing next week.
I like me some Nick Boyle.
Yeah, that would be great for our run game and blocking scheme.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Although I will say Project Pat had some runs in the second half where they needed to pick up some first downs. Mm-hmm. And, man, he just stonewalled some of the defensive linemen. It was awesome to watch.
He's 300-plus, man. There's no way you're stopping him a yard short anywhere. Like, that's a guarantee.
Exactly. Brad, do you have anything else?
Go Ravens.
Go Ravens. Yeah, I agree. I want to plug some things real quick before we get out of here. Flock Squawk Twitter is up. So you're going to see us. I live tweeted the Lions game, but I did a terrible job with it because the end of the game had like my full attention. But with the Flock Squawk Twitter is up. So if you follow us on here, make sure to follow us on Twitter. As always, thank you for the support. All three of us appreciate it. And we are hoping to bring you more content in the future. And leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, help us grow, help us get out there a little bit more if you like the conversation that we have. And we're on to Denver next week. Teams 3-0, we're 2-1. Should be a good matchup.
Yep, baby.
Yeah, Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, what's the Twitter handle?
It should be Flock Squawk.
Just at Flat Squawk.
At Flock Squawk. Yep, that's it.
Squawk, baby.
That's the handle. So if you guys want to check it out, and if you want to leave comments mid-game too, you know, I'm always down to get into arguments of why we should pay Justin Tucker $20 million a year. But you know, some Ravens fans don't believe that, and you know, to those Ravens fans, I say, you know, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And you're just going to have to live with the fact that it's very possible he should be paid that amount of money. And we forgive you. You know, we forgive you, whether you give apologies or not. It's no big deal. It's fine.
Yeah, right.
I'll meet you in the middle, Ben.
They did. Okay. They did bump it up. They said 10 million.
I'll go to 10 million a year. That's it.
And I will promise you that if he gets more game-winning kicks, the very first question I'm going to ask you is, so 2.5 mil bump?
Nope.
We're going to bump him 5 mil? What are we going to do?
10 mil. is 10 mil is the max. Even that's pushing it. That's double what he makes now, and he's already highest paid.
It's early, Chad. It's early. I got plenty of time to convince you. Okay, we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much for listening. Chad, Brad, have a wonderful rest of your day, my friends. And we shall see you. Let's see. Wow. October 4th. We will have the recap for week 4. And we'll be talking about the upcoming week after that. All right, boys. Say goodbye to the people.
See you guys.
People.
Go Ravens.
And we'll see you next Monday. Go Ravens. Caw-caw.
Caw-caw.
We'll see you next week.